Good, good morning, Lisa. So, how's it going?
Good. I don't know if TJ will be here. He may have had an IEP this morning too, because we are in
God,
the
it is.
season
We
IEPs.
are in
And
that time of year.
I know I was invited to
So,
one, and I said, no, I can't be there that early. Sorry. I'll send you a written report for this kid. So,
great.
anyway. So,
So, go ahead and
yeah.
give us an update. Where are you? Yeah,
Okay, so we are in the middle of reading night, and the kids really they think it's very interesting. I hate to say, I just can't say enjoy reading it for night because it's such a tough read. The diction's not difficult, but
yeah,
it's the subject matter is really harsh. But I've only had one student who hasn't really enjoyed the subject matter. I lined them up 3 by 3, all the way down to represent the cars that he had to take. The train cars going to Birkenau, and they had to scrunch together and get close. And then we talked about what it felt like, and who was claustrophobic, and for all those people who had to stand there for days and days and days. And if you had to go to the restroom, you just had to go there in your pants. And so I thought that visual was good for them. And
oh,
so
yeah,
anyway, they've had a lot of journal writing they've been doing, and it has not been a problem getting them to read this. It's a good end of the year book because they've all bought into it. And so yeah, that has not been a problem. They've had some vocab quizzes, and lots of discussion. We talk about the children or the people who had to leave all of their belongings on the train. We talked about, have you ever had your luggage lost, or do you know anybody who, we had obviously the Washington, Illinois tornadoes that
hmm
destroyed that town a few years ago. So we kind of talked about that, and what it feels like to lose everything like these people
hmm
did, not only their belongings but their traditions and culture and all that. So anyway, so it's been
interesting.
pretty good. Yeah.
And
So
is
that's
there
what we've been.
anything from the web that you could bring in that maybe the kids could do a search or a find, or have you found any good resources to support the work in the book?
I've been, well, teachers pay teachers is a good source. So, especially when you're teaching a new unit. But the United States Holocaust Museum website was really good. And so there was a web quest that went along with it that I bought, but I checked it out. Some of the links didn't work. And I wanted the students just to look at the pictures and the timeline and spend about 20 minutes just looking at what interested them. And so sometimes I think that when you're just going in to fill in the answers, you don't really read, you're just looking for answers.
hmm
So I decided that we would go with that. And so that seemed all right. So,
Well,
so
one you
yeah, we
might
did
want to
that.
consider, yeah, one you might want to consider using that might also bring about the discussion that maybe TJ could lead is if you haven't seen Useless Eaters. It's a website of about how people with disabilities were treated during the Holocaust. And what I think
Oh,
is
that's
really fascinating is it talks about that all the sterilization and that killing people with disabilities actually came and they learned from the United States.
wow. So what's it called?
Which
Useless cedars?
useless eaters, like eating food, useless
Oh,
eaters.
useless. Okay, okay.
And just putting up the website alone and having a 3 minute what does that image do for you will be bone chilling with your kids.
Okay.
And it's a
I think
really it's a thoughtful site. It's a very thoughtful site.
Okay, that's good. I think it helped that they saw the interview with Oprah first before reading because they heard his voice, and so I thought that was really good. So that worked out nicely. And I think it's for this. I think it's a perfect read for them because it's not too difficult. They're learning new vocabulary, lots of words that have to do with the Jewish tradition that I don't know as well. So we look them up together. So that's been good. And if I'm not sure how to pronounce it, then will go to dictionary.com and listen to it, so they can kind of see that I don't know everything, which is I think helpful for them. But I think that the topic is just kind of interesting to them. So
Mhm.
it's been good. I finished. with their papers. I'm finally getting the last of that back. I had some students who had to make 3 and 4 groups of revisions, and so because of that, I've got ideas for next year. For next year, I'm going to have 3 sites that they can use, and we will do the works cited together. So then that will be just so much better, because I would give the paper back. I have a works cited for them to look at. So this is what it should look like. And they said, but mine looks like that. I said, no, look again. And they just won't see that it doesn't look like that. So we had to go through it. So we're just going to do that together. And then for the students who are really, really low and in writing, I'm going to have more of a fill-in-the-blank format for their paper. So I think for the structure, because some still don't get, that the 3 traits in the thesis have to go with the body paragraphs, and you have to give multiple examples. Overall, they've improved greatly. So, but after reading each paper 3 and 4 times, I'm done with that. So I got to do something, so I don't have to go crazy reading them quite that many times.
And what is TJ's role, and what is the role of co-assessing in this particular section of your work together?
Okay, that's the one thing we need to work on, because he's assessed with the speeches, and I would have him I would tell him for the speeches, okay, you're going to grade 1, and then I'll grade the next one, and it allows for more time to write comments, thoughtful comments, and then we can keep it going, because if you have to stop and write and then the students have to wait for you, so that doesn't work so well. But otherwise, he doesn't assess much. So I would like, he did with the vocab quizzes when we went around and gave him a word. But for the writing, and I don't know if he might not feel comfortable doing that, but I would like to see him spend a little more time. Not that I'm trying to get my work, give it to him so I don't have to do it, but to figure out his role in it, because I'm not really sure what his role in it is either.
So how about if that's a goal for the next week, is how could everything you're doing in class, he have something to assess and you have something to assess? So for example, in a speech, why couldn't one of you assess the dictation, vocabulary, and the cadence of speech, and the other do eye contact, body posture, and content? Or it might be one that you can tell him that the challenge we gave you is to take everything and come up with 6 things, and each of you are going to do 3. Okay. And that way then it's really clear that in the paper you're going to do what you said, the traits of the essay, and he's going to look at grammar and spelling, or he's going to look at the number of adjectives and adverbs. But I think that would be important to end the year with you both getting better at co-assessing, because I think that's kind of the final frontier you guys have to master, in my opinion.
Right, because we haven't done much of that, and so just figuring that out would be good. So yeah, I'll have to think about that and what assignment would be good. We have, we're going to finish night, and then we are going to write a précis, which is just the 4 sentences. Hey, we're talking about you. No, that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Writing the précis, so we could probably co-assess on that pretty easily. And then after that, we'll have the poetry unit and then some ACT. So anyway, we're talking about co-assessing. So okay. Just because I told them how, we've done some with
the projects
and the speeches and the vocab quizzes. But then with the writing, I'm not sure what that looks like.
Yeah,
and I don't know how comfortable you feel with that too. So I don't know.
I mean, it's definitely one of my weaker suits. And then I don't know, having 2 different maybe styles of writing.
Right, then that's tough.
Yeah,
but it would be good for you to see how much they've improved too, because it really is amazing.
That's why I like to at least look at the grades, see the corrections that they've done. So.
Yeah, so I was recommending, TJ, that maybe each assignment you guys finish up the year with, you come up with 6 things you guys want to look at, and 3 things you would look at, 3 things Lisa would look at. Like you might go through the papers and see how many more adjectives they've used, and that there's correct punctuation or whatever. That might be a very basic skill, and Lisa then would be looking to assess a higher level, so you're both getting a chance. The other one you can do is do good cop, bad cop, and one of you can be the complimentary person on a paper and the other one can grade it, and then the next time you flip. So TJ grades it with his style, and Lisa, you write compliments, and then vice versa, so that you're both looking at the papers, but you're looking at them for different reasons that shouldn't add more time to grading, but should really enhance the feedback you're giving kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I had one student from another class, and he wondered why I had so many marks on his paper, that more compared to someone else's. And he, it was stylistic. And I said, well, I'm sure that I graded yours earlier in the evening, and his was later in the evening when I was tired. That would make the difference. That's how it goes.
Well, and that's another strategy I've seen is, let's say there's 20 papers that TJ grades 10, you grade 10, and then you each switch one and kind of get a metric for how each other grades. Oh gosh, TJ, I think you were, way harder than I had planned, or wow, that was easier than I had thought it would be, so that you have that discussion. And I just think that would be the healthy thing to start next fall, kind of saying we both have a way of co-teaching, co-planning, co-instructing, and the co-assessing should make it easier. And my big challenge in assessment is try to never assess anything you can't do right there. So if it's 4 sentences, why wouldn't you each go around and grade those 4 sentences in front of the kids so they have the feedback there and you're not taking any papers home?
Okay. What do you do
in the room if we do for longer papers? So you actually, what I normally do with a longer paper is I'm going to come and pick one paragraph and I'm going to grade it, so you better make sure they're all 4 good.
Okay.
Because I'm only grading 1, so you better treat them all equal, because you know what happens at the end of the paper, blah, 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 done, okay? And you could say, I'm going to do the intro paragraph for all the kids with disabilities, because that may be all they got done. Whereas the other kids are going to grade their last paragraph. But my first paragraph was good, yeah, but I didn't choose to do that today. So again, something that gets them immediate feedback, cuts down on your grading, and allows you both to give feedback right there in the moment. And then Jen had something she wanted to add.
Yeah, what I wanted to add is something that I've seen some teachers do is they will have, kind of like Lisa was saying, a list of 6 things, and something that's easily accessible. So, we're looking for this, this, and this under each area. So you might be looking for, I'm looking for 5 adjectives, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this. And then you each take the same paper, you each assess the same paper, at kind of like Lisa was saying, go back and forth with it and say, well, I saw this, and that will help you get more on the same page of assessing the papers together.
That makes sense.
And believe it or not, the point of co-assessing is so you do less instead of more, which sounds bizarre, because you're like, well, if we're both doing it, it's more work. But what you want to keep saying is, how do we do this in a way that's in the class? Now, will you still, Lisa, need to take home some long papers? Absolutely. And give them deep reads. But what you're really trying to do is give kids feedback immediately, because you and I both know kids who are poor writers get their paper back and go, yeah, whatever, versus, write a paragraph and correct it right now and give it back to me and I'll up your grade by 3 points. Oh, okay, now I've got some meaning to my assessment. So that might be a fun last part to kind of give you guys bless you, as a focus.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Other things you guys want to know, I shared Useless Eaters, TJ. I think you'll find that site fascinating. It'll be a great way to bring in kids with disabilities. It's a site that shows what they did during the Holocaust to people with disabilities, and it's very gruesome and unpleasant. So I will just warn you right up front. It's a little hard stomach, so you'll want to think through what kids can handle. But again, because you're working with high school kids, I think it's appropriate. Other things you guys want to know, because I'm cognizant you guys have to go like in the next minute.
Yeah.
I'm missing out on half that.
No, that's okay. Well, I will. As we get into the poetry, I'll kind of send to you what we have planned, and so maybe you can come up with some, because I think that's one area where I'm weak in teaching, partly because I don't enjoy it.
Did we talk about doing the 6-word?
Oh yeah, we're gonna write the
transition.
6-word memoirs, 6-word memoirs. I have a book, and so we thought that would, if they wrote one, a 6-word memoir for Elie Wiesel, and then one for themselves.
And then that'd be kind of a good transition to poetry.
Yeah, so that would be kind of interesting.
So here's something I just recently saw in a high school class. Once you write let's say we're classmates, all of us together. Once I write my memoir, I have to communicate to Jen what it means, and she has to perform my memoir.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
interesting,
trying
yeah.
to take the perspective of the author, which kids don't do very well in their writing. And it was a great way to see kids actually trying to understand the author's intents of those 6 words and trying to perform that poem from the author's perspective. And the author then graded them on whether or not they represented their voice in the way they presented their poem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And one last thing,
And
how
then
did
the
it
other
go
one, how did it go? What?
at the conference? Did it go okay? And then we have to go because we have students that's here.
Oh, yes, the presentation conference. Jen, that's yours. And then we'll let.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it went really well. I had at least 3 or 4 teachers come up to me and say, "Hey, can I do that next year?" Which was really kind of fun. But I talked to some high school teachers that are doing some first year of inclusion of students with disabilities into the classroom. So they were interested to hear how you guys had done and what had happened throughout the year for the 2 of you and how you both have grown so much as co-teachers throughout the year. But it was really exciting to be able to talk about what we've been doing all year, and there was a lot of buzz about it. A lot of people saying to me, "Oh, this is a really cool thing." So very exciting.
We got to go because I have
And,
students. So.
Thank you.
and our summer goal is to make a YouTube sensation. So take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, well, I'll flip an email about when we can meet next. We'll see you later.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye. All right. Thanks, Jen. I think that was great. As always.